Okay, in lesson 15, we're going to be applying what we've learned, and we're going to be working on word problems. A baker buys a 5-pound bag of sugar. She uses 1 2/3 pounds to make some muffins and 2 3/4 pounds to make a cake. How much sugar does she have left? Well, first thing, let's go ahead and do a tape diagram so that we can keep track. It says that she has a total of 5 pounds of sugar, and she used 1 2/3 pounds, and she made muffins. Then she used 2 3/4 pounds to make a cake. Now the question says, how much sugar does she have left? Well, you can see she cooked muffins and cake, so this is what they have left. So in order to find out what they have left, I have to take 5, and I'm going to subtract the sum of 1 2/3 and 2 3/4. In other words, I'm going to take the sum of both these two, and I'm going to subtract it from 5 pounds to find out what is left. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and do an estimate in order to ensure our answer is reasonable. Okay? Now, if I see here, this is 1 2/3, and 2/3 is greater than half. And I have 2 3/4, and I know 3/4 is greater than half. So now I know that I'm going to have a number that's 1 that is greater than 1 1/2, and this one's greater than 2 1/2. So I know this sum is going to be greater than 4. So basically I have 5 minus a number that is greater than 4, so my answer should be less than 1. Or basically around 1, but it should be less than 1. Let's see how it works out. So we have 5 minus 1 2/3 plus 2 3/4. Let's go ahead and add those two together. So I have 1 2/3 plus 2 3/4. And the way we've done this is 1 plus 2/3 plus 2 plus 2 3/4. And when we rewrite it, we know this is 1 plus 2 plus 2/3 plus 3/4. And we know these two are going to end up being 3. Now let's come up here and let's do our 2/3 and 3/4. So 2/3 plus 3/4. And we know, and I'm going to do them underneath of it, we know they're going to end up with 12, because 4 times 3 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9. So we're going to end up with 17/12. So we got 3 plus 17/12. And we know 17/12 is actually equal to 1 5/12. So now we have 3 plus 1 5/12 is 4 5/12. So now we're going to come back over here. We're going to put our 4 5/12 here minus 5. So this is actually 5 minus 4 minus 5/12. 4 minus 5 is 1 minus 5/12 is going to equal 7/12. So 7/12 was how much was left. As you can see, our estimate here was less than 1. 7/12 is definitely less than 1. Okay, a boxer needs to lose 3.5 kilograms in a month to be able to compete as a flyweight. In 3 weeks, he lowers his weight from 55.5 kilograms to 53.8 kilograms. How many kilograms must lose to final week to be able to compete as a flyweight? So let's go ahead and do a tape diagram. We know that they had a total of 3.5 kilograms to lose. And it says he lost 55.5. His weight from that to 53.8. So we're going to have to solve this to find out how much was actually lost. And this one here is going to be how much he needs to still lose. So let's go back and let's subtract 55.5. We're going to use our decimal place to line it up. 8 and 53, I'm sorry. Subtract them. We cannot take 8 from 5, so we're going to regroup. Comes 4. 15 minus 8 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. So now we know this is 1.7 kilograms. So now we have 3.5 minus 1.7. Now we have a fraction in the decimal. But if you remember, the 7 is actually in the tenths place. So this is actually 1 7/10. And we're subtracting that from 3.5. So now when we rewrite it, we got 3 plus 1/2 minus 1 minus 7/10. So now I got 3 minus 1 plus 1/2 minus 7/10, which gives us 2. We're going to rewrite these. And remember, you could do 2 times 10, and that would work. So let's go ahead and just keep that. So we know our common denominators are going to be 20. And then we have 1 times 10 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14. And we can see now that I cannot subtract 14 from 10. So we're going to regroup. It's going to be 1. And we know we're going to bring 20/20ths over. So now it's actually going to be 1 plus 20 plus 10 is 30/20ths minus 14/20ths. And we're going to end up with, out of these two, that'll be 16/20ths. So he has to lose 1 16/20ths. Now in this case, I probably would reduce. It doesn't tell me to, but let's go ahead and reduce anyway. So 1 16/20ths. Now I can see right now that both of them have factors of 4. So I know that's 4 times 4, which equals 16, and 4 times 5, which equals 20. Take out our commons, and we know it's 1 4/5. So this would equal 1 4/5 pounds. A construction company builds a new rail line from town A to town B. They complete 1 1/4 miles in their first week of the work and 1 2/3 miles in the second week. If they still have 25 3/4 miles left to build, what is the distance from town A to B? Now there's a lot of information in there, and the only way you're going to get that is if you build a tape diagram. All right. So let's go ahead and do a tape diagram. And it says that they complete 1 1/4 miles in the first week. So let's go ahead and put it in here. And this is 1 1/4 miles. And that was week 1. Then it says, and 1 2/3 miles in the second week. So here's 1 2/3 miles. And that's week 2. And it says they still have 25 3/4 miles. 25 3/4 miles left to build. And what is the distance from A to B? So basically on this one, we're looking for the total amount. So we know we have to add these. We got 1 1/4 plus 1 2/3 plus 25 3/4. Now, if I want to do an estimate on this, I would start off by saying, okay, I know I have 25 3/4, which is more than a half. 1 2/3, and 2/3 is more than a half. So I know 2/3 plus 3/4 is going to be a little more than 1. So 25, 26. So these are going to add up to a little more than 27, greater than 27. Now I have 1 1/4. So that's less than a half. So basically, we're looking at this is the sum of all of this is going to be a little greater than 28. Because 20 is a little more than 27 plus 1 1/4 is going to be a little more than 28. Now let's go ahead and add them up and see. Now I'm going to use our commutative property here. Well, just the red mark is going everywhere. Now what that means is I'm going to reorder these. I got 1 plus 1/4 plus 1 plus 2/3 plus 25 plus 3/4. And let's go ahead and reorder it. We got 1 plus 1 plus 25. That takes care of our whole numbers. Plus, now we got 1/4. And when I rewrite this time, I'm going to put my quarters together. There's 3/4 plus 2/3. So now when I add this up, I got 25, 26, 27 plus my 2/4 add together to 1 whole plus 2/3. So now I have 28 2/3. So that's the total distance. The total distance is 28 2/3 miles. Now let's go back and look at our estimate, see if it was correct. Now according to here, we said it was a little greater than 28. We have 28 2/3 miles, so it is reasonable. Number 4, a catering company needs 8.75 pounds of shrimp for a small party. They buy 3 3/4 of the shrimp. 2 5/8 pounds of medium-sized shrimp and some mini shrimp. How many pounds of mini shrimp did they buy, or do they buy? Okay, let's look at a tape diagram. And it says needs 8.75 shrimp for a party. So this is 8.75 right here. Now they said they had 3 2/3, and this was jumbo. Then here they have 2 5/8. This is medium. And the remaining amount are the mini shrimp. And this is what we're looking for. So in order to solve this, we know we have 8.75, and we're going to subtract the sum of 3 2/3 plus 2 5/8. Now if you look at this, we have fractions and decimals. Now how would I write this as a fraction? Well, if you remember, this is 75 hundredths. So I get 8 75 100ths minus 3 2/3 plus 2 5/8. So let's go ahead and do this one. We have 3 plus 2/3 plus 2 plus 5/8. When we rewrite this, we get 3 plus 2 plus 2/3 plus 5/8. So now we got 5. Over here, we know we're going to get 24, because 8 times 3 is 24. And 8 times 2 is 16. 3 times 5 is 15. So now we got 5, and 15 plus 16 is going to be 31 24ths. And we know 31 24ths is actually equal to 1 7 24ths. So now we know we got 6, 7, 24ths. So now we have 8 75 100ths minus 6 and 7 24ths. Wow, that's going to end up with some large denominators, isn't it? Now, let's go ahead. And now we have 8 minus 6 plus 75 100ths minus 7 24ths. So when we redo our fractions, we know that multiplying 124 together are going to give us 2400. This is one of those cases where using a smiley face is going to give you a large number. Now when we multiply 24 and 75, let's come over here. 75, 24, it's going to be 20. 14, 28 is 30. Now put a placeholder. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry 1. 2 times 7 is 14. 1 is 15. So now we get 1800. So we get 1800 24ths. And now we do the other way, which we're going to go 7 times 100, and we're going to have 700. Now that looks like a large number, okay? But if you remember, we're multiplying and dividing by hundreds here, so I can take these two out. That becomes 18 24ths minus, here I can take 2 of them out. Now I got 7 24ths. So 18 minus 7 is going to give us 11 24ths. So now we know that our answer is 2 and 11 24ths. So 2 and 11 24ths was our answer. Now let's come up here. Let's just do a quick estimate to verify it's reasonable. We know 3 2/3 is greater than half, 3 1/2. 2 5/8 is greater than a half, so that's going to be 3, 5, that's 6 already, a little more than 6. And 2 would be 8 and 11 24ths. So 11 24ths is a little less than half. So our estimate of shows that it should be close to 8 7500ths. 5. Mark breaks up a 9-hour drive into 3 segments. He drives 2.5 hours before stopping for lunch. After driving some more, he stops for gas. If the second segment of his drive was 1 2/3 hours longer than the first segment, how long did he drive after stopping for gas? So let's go ahead and do a tape diagram. And we know this here was 9 hours total. The first one he said he drives 2.5 hours. This was the first segment. After driving some more, he stops for gas. If the second segment of his drive was 1 2/3 longer than the first, so that's saying this segment right here is 1 2/3 longer than the first segment. So that means this is going to be 2 1/2 plus 1 2/3. And that'd be the second segment. Now they want to know what was the remaining. So how long did he drive after stopping gas? So this is the remaining with after gas. So Now we can see with this that we have the total 9, and we're going to subtract the sum of 2 1/2 plus 2 1/2 plus 1 2/3. So now we have 9 minus 2 1/2 and 2 1/2 is going to give us 5 plus 1 2/3. So now we have 9 minus 6 2/3. I don't need this anymore, so it'll be 9 minus 6 2/3. So when we write this, we can see 9 minus 6 is going to be, a lot of students do a mistake here. They just go 9 minus 6 is going to be 3, and they end it. But that's not exactly true. Okay? So what you have to do, this is 9 minus 6 here, plus, right now, if you look at 9, that's actually 0 thirds, I should say. 0 thirds minus 2/3. Now, when we subtract this, we got 3 plus, but now we know that we cannot subtract 2 from 0 thirds. So we're going to regroup. It becomes a 2. And since it's in thirds, we're going to make this one 3 thirds. And we're going to carry it over. Since it's 0, it's just going to be in 3 thirds minus 2 thirds. And we'll end up with 1 third. So we end up with a total of 2 1/3 remaining.